There, see in the sky? Rainbow. That is weird. Hey, welcome to my channel. Well, this is the video you've all been waiting for throughout the entire year of 2018. And if anybody's been waiting for this video, then you need a life, because this is just a video based on my predictions, which are basically guesses based on my knowledge of the drone industry. You know, I've been doing this for so long that I can see trends coming, so I can kind of see where everything's going. So, you know, it's just an easy guess. And also I have a crystal ball back there, so I can't get anything wrong. All right, let me get into trends. So here's what I noticed. In the year 2018, what did I see? At the start of the year, all the drones that were like $100 or maybe $200, those drones all had like 720p cameras, brushed motors, no gimbal. The flight time was pretty low. It wasn't very long. You might get 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Then as the summer of 2018 came, the $100 to $200 drones started to come out with 1080p video, brushless motors, longer flight times, and much better quality in range too. You could get a pretty decent range. You're starting to get at half a kilometer. And then as the end of the year 2018 came, we started to see this. I have two behind me. Large drones, brushless motors. This is the F11 drone. Electronic camera in the front. It's not electronic image stabilization. Long flight time, very high quality build, and really decent range. And the features in these drones all have the follow me, orbit me, and all these other things. Those all started to become common in the drones at the end of the year 2018. And as we saw during the year 2018, everything about foldable is the way to go forward. Foldable, foldable, foldable. It didn't matter if it was a tiny little drone or what, it was foldable so that it was portable. That made things a lot more interesting for the buyers out there for the $100 to $200 range. And some companies said, screw the foldable, I'll just make a really good drone. So this drone here has an electronic gimbal on it. It can move up and down. It can't move side to side. And it's in the $200 range as well. And it's got powerful brushless motors, and it has all those flight modes, and it's got a super long range and all these things. This was another new one for 2018. There'll be a review coming up on this one, as well as this here F11 in the future. So the trends are this. In the year 2018 leading to 2019, this is my prediction. So in 2019, for $100 or $200, you're going to start to see more drones with brushless motors. They're going to have a super long flight range. You know, it's going to be standard to go 500 meters, half a kilometer to over a kilometer. The cameras are all going to be 1080p, and by the summer of 2019, I predict we're going to start to see 4K cameras in the $100 to $200 range. They're not going to be good 4K, you know, it's going to be like an upscaled 4K. And they'll have electronic image stabilization. They'll have all the features that DJI has, you know, the orbit mode, follow me, just like we started to see at the end of 2018. But you won't get the 3-axis gimbal, because that's very hard for manufacturers to make. And we're going to start to see for $200, you're going to get a great camera and great flight features, and we'll get really good drones by the end of 2019 for around $200. And whoever does that, those drones are going to sell like hotcakes. Okay, so that was the trends. Now I'm going to make my little predictions about all the major drone companies that everybody wants to know about. Once again, these are just predictions based on what I know in the media, what I'm guessing is going to happen in the future. So let's start off with the company Parrot. Now, Parrot made this really cool drone in 2018 that we all know and love, which I have here. I can open the case. This is the Parrot Anafi. I love this drone, and let's just see here. It comes in another case. So the Parrot Anafi was a drone that came out in the summertime, and it got better as time progressed. It's a really good drone. Now, the problem is this. Parrot was having problems in the year 2017 and laying off staff. So the year 2017 was not a good year for Parrot. And then the year 2018 came, and what did Parrot have when the year started? They had those Parrot Bebop, the Disco, and all those other drones they had. And they weren't selling because DJI had killed the market, saturated the market with those awesome technology drones, and a lot of people didn't want to spend the high prices that Parrot was asking. So as 2018 went on, then they released here the Anafi, and it was an okay start, but it wasn't a fast start. And then as the year progressed, it got better. And the Anafi has sold extremely well for Parrot. However, Parrot spent so much money in R&D, and they've been having financial problems that they've been laying off staff, and they said, guys, we're not making any money in the consumer market. So in November, they said, we got to focus our attention on the commercial market. So Parrot makes really good commercial drone equipment and software, and that's where they're seeing an increase in profits. They're not seeing profits in the consumer market. So my prediction for 2019 is, in the consumer market, which is the Parrot Anafi, we might see you know, sort of like what DJI does with drones when they don't want to release a new model, they just bump up an old model. So we might see some new Parrot Anafi in 2019, maybe a different color, maybe there's a different flight feature, maybe it has a longer range, maybe it does something else, maybe they make a version with sensors on it, but just something minor. And you might see that in 2019 because they are leaving a small R&D staff for the consumer market, which will carry on probably working on the Anafi. So for 2019, I don't expect any new drones from Parrot, and all I expect is that they'll stick with the Anafi, and the Anafi will just get better in 2019. Now let's move our focus over to the company Yuneec. Now Yuneec is one of those companies that they started out a long time ago with DJI and 3DR and some other companies, and they did really well at the start because there wasn't a lot of players in the game. Now there was a time way back in 2016 when Yuneec was at the top of its game, and it launched this here Typhoon H. This is the original one, and companies like DJI were pretty scared because it's a hexacopter, and it did so many things that only the Inspire did, which was super expensive, and you could get this thing with a controller for a dirt cheap price. They still sell this today. You can still buy the original Typhoon H today, and you can add the RealSense module and all that other good stuff. I still fly it a few times a year. It's a pretty good drone, you know, it still lives up. It's 2016 it came out, and it's still pretty decent. But after the Typhoon H, Yuneec sort of went downhill, because I don't know what they did. Their marketing wasn't that great. They started to bleed money, and they had problems with the Typhoon H. It was sort of launched before it should have been. It wasn't totally refined. It's refined now, but at the start it wasn't that refined, so there was a lot of negativity, and there was a lot of people who just loved DJI and they just bashed the Typhoon H. So the Typhoon H really had no love, and Yuneec, well, you know, it got a lot of bad press. Before we get to 2019, let's go back to CES of 2018. So in January of 2018, Yuneec is still in the game, and it comes out at CES and says, we're launching some products this year. One of them is the Typhoon H Plus, and we're going to launch this thing called the HD Racer, and also this plane called the Firebird. Well, we never got the HD Racer in 2018. As a matter of fact, Yuneec gave it away, and they gave it to over at Horizon Hobby. So if you want to buy that HD Racer, it's over at Horizon Hobby. They call it the Blade Inductrix, I believe. And that Firebird, well, the Firebird, there's no intent to launch it in North America that I can see. But what did we get instead in 2018? Well, we got Typhoon H Plus we got this, the Mantis Q. Now, the Mantis Q, I've reviewed it, and I will say, you know, from a build perspective and everything, the Mantis Q is a really, really good drone. Like, it's not, geez, I can't even open that correctly. It's one of those drones that was surprising. So when this came out, it was a surprise to many of us, and it still is a good drone, and they keep doing firmware updates to make it better. The only failure on this drone is I don't know what Yuneec was thinking for the price point. They launched the drone with a 4K camera, and the 4K has no electronic image stabilization. The 1080p has image stabilization, but this drone, if there's wind or if it moves, well, you know, that image stabilization and everything else, it doesn't really work. So if there's wind, your drone does this, and the image stabilization can't compensate, so your horizon's always kind of wonky. And if you go forward, your drone does this, so all of a sudden your image goes down, then back up. And if you stop, same thing, your image goes up and then down. I don't know why they didn't put a gimbal on here. Now, there's interviews with the guys at Yuneec, and they say, yeah, we're going to launch this here, Mantis, another model with a gimbal on it, a 3-axis gimbal, well, maybe a 2-axis gimbal and some image stabilization. So in the year 2019, since this is sold pretty good, you know, it's at a good price point, the under $500 range, I predict that we'll see this drone with the 3-axis gimbal. I don't predict seeing any obstacle avoidance on this drone because it's pretty small, and I don't think they have any intention of adding it up front. You're going to know for sure if you're watching this at CES or after CES. I'm sure Yuneec's going to tell us all the answers at CES, where they're going with this here drone, because it will be at CES. And why do I say that? Because if you look on the CES website, you'll see that Yuneec is in the running for an award of the most innovative technology. And what is that innovative technology? It's this, the Mantis Q. They're actually getting an award for it. So I see this as being maybe their little flagship sub $500 drone coming up in 2019. They'll have to make it better. All right, now let's move over to Team Orange, which would be Autel Robotics. Now, Autel's done quite well. They're a very tiny company in the US, their US location, but of course they're owned by a Chinese company. And it's kind of funny, if you look on the Autel website, if you go right to the bottom, go over to the bottom in the bottom right, you'll see there's a little flag of US flag, and there's also a Chinese flag. That's because corporate headquarters wants to read what the US folks put on their website because it's owned by them. So they click on the little Chinese thing and it does an automatic translation for them. Anyways, Autel is really good at cloning DJI products, and of course they have the X-Star Premium, which is a clone of the Phantom 3 series. They made their clone of the Mavic, which is the Evo back here. So they're doing quite well, but it's still a small offshoot, and for some reason, it must be regulations or whatnot for their drone, they don't really have distributors outside the US. Sure, the Evo is made over in China, but they don't sell it worldwide. Where do I see 2019 going for Autel? Well, we saw at CES in 2018 that when Autel was showing everybody the Evo, they showed at one point an Evo with a 1-inch sensor. I don't know if it was a mock-up or the real thing. I would say it's pretty easy for Autel at this point to add a 1-inch sensor to the Evo if they wanted to. It shouldn't cost them too much, but they'll just have to see how well the Evo is already sold. I think it's sold quite well, so I see them going forward with some small tweaks to the actual Evo. Like, you know, in accessories, how many people have said, you know what, I've got 5 batteries for the Autel Evo. Do you have a multi-charger? Well, there's no multi-charger, so Autel would come out with something like that. There's many other accessories and software and flight features that Autel can come out with for the Evo to make it even better in the year 2019. If they wanted to, they could come out with another Evo with extra features because they've already got the base unit, which is the Evo. So they can make the Evo Plus, the Evo Air, the Evo Pro, you know, all these things. And it wouldn't cost them a lot of money to just remanufacture what they already have. So in 2019, you might see something called the Evo Pro with a 1-inch sensor, but I honestly don't know. It just depends on how well the sales of the Evo have been. Also in 2019, will Autel finally have distributors outside the US so they can sell this around the world in all the possible languages and have their firmware and software all work in all languages around the world? Who knows? You know, if their parent company wants to invest a lot of money, then yes, that will happen. But the Evo will change from how we know it because it will have to meet certain regulations around the world. But anyways, for now, I'm going to predict for 2019 that the Evo will carry on going, and by the end of 2019, Evo we know today will be even better by the end of the year 2019. Oh, and I should say this. If you watch CES in January, which is not too far off, you're going to see Autel's there, and they're going to have their Evo there, and they're probably going to have a version of whatever the Evo is going to be in the future. So there'll be sort of concept version. You might be able to touch it, hold it, everything else, and that should get people excited again. If they just show up with the Evo and there's nothing new, they have nothing introduced, well then, yeah, Autel sales are not going to do too well. All right, so the last company I'm going to talk about is DJI. Yes, we can't forget them because they are like dominating everything with all their drones. So in the year 2018, they came out with, I got to look at my little sheet here. So they did this little thing with Rise, and they made the Rise Tello, but DJI technology's in it, and DJI sells it on their website. So that was the start. Then they had the Mavic Air, which came out. Everybody went bananas over that because it wasn't too expensive, and everybody thought it was better than the existing Mavic Pro. Then they came out with the Phantom 4 Pro 2.0, where they added OcuSync to the old Phantom 4 Pro. And then they came out with the Mavics. Yeah, they came out with the Mavic 2 Zoom, Mavic 2 Pro. Then they came out with the Enterprise Edition and the Enterprise Dual. And then at the end of the year, oh, and then they came out, let's not forget the other things. And they had the Ronin S for photographers. You know, I'm just tossing that in because that was pretty popular and it was new technology. And then they downsized the Osmo, and now they got the Osmo Pocket. So, you know, new products are what DJI wants. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. DJI, in one category or another, either it be accessories, commercial, consumer, has to launch a new product almost monthly to stay afloat. Now you think, stay afloat, they're not going broke. What I mean is that to keep the profits coming in, because do they ever make profits? And they have to just keep putting out new technology, new products, new accessories, maybe even taking an old product and just slapping a new face on it and selling it as a new product. That's what they do. So 2018 was a very profitable year for DJI. Where are they going in 2019, you ask? Well, expect a lot of the same. Now, DJI knows that it sells a lot of drones in the $500 US down to, you know, $100 US market. So what they want to do is they want to dominate that market, because a lot of people are willing to pay $500 or less for a drone than you are $5,000 for a drone. So with that being said, they're going to make drones in the year 2019 that are going to be rather inexpensive. So what does that mean? You're going to see, where is it here? So there's the Tello, which is by Rise. So maybe at CES, just like last year, somebody will introduce the Tello 2, which obviously would have newer features on here. The long overdue Spark has to come out, and we all know that the new version of this Spark will be smaller, have foldable arms and all that good stuff. Maybe they'll put these two drones together into one, and this will be the new type of drone. They're not going to announce the Spark or anything like that at CES. DJI does not announce nowadays new drones at CES. They just sit there and show their old drones and maybe some fancy accessories and software or something else, and just show what the capabilities are, but they don't show new stuff. At least they haven't done that in a while. So we're not going to get anything from DJI at CES in January, but expect an announcement probably just like last year at the end of CES with something new. Which brings me now to the Mavic Air. So the Mavic Air came out, and this thing here was really popular. People were buying this in droves. But the funny thing about the Mavic Air is hardly anybody talks about it anymore. You don't see a lot of YouTube videos about the Mavic Air because everybody's talking about the Mavic Zoom, Mavic 2 Zoom, and the Mavic 2 Pro, or the old Pro with the Platinum. Yeah, so it's kind of strange that this here is sort of fallen down. So what I see is DJI in 2019 taking the Mavic Air and doing a bump. You know, what I mean by that is just like they did with the Mavic and the Mavic Pro Platinum. So everybody complains about the sound of the motors and how noisy this thing is. So expect different types of props, different types of motors probably, and ESCs to keep it low noise. Probably longer flight time at 16 minutes right now. You know, it'd just be like a Mavic Air Plus or something like that. There'll be something that will come out with the Mavic Air where DJI just has to add a tiny bit of technology to make it better and sell it as something new. And as soon as you sell something as something new, well, then profits go up in this category. Next, we go on to the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro, which is right here. So I can't see much happening with this in 2019. They already did the Enterprise thing. They could come out with new colors like they like to do a lot of times. So you can get a white version, a black version, or a few other things. This thing is like loaded with everything you could possibly get. So there's not much they can do to it. You know, if they wanted to make a model where they added even another camera, I doubt it, because the Phantom 5 still has to come out, and that's going to have the better camera. So the year 2019, all I see them doing is taking this drone and doing something to it and selling it as another option. I'm trying to keep this short, so I'm just running through these. Next, we got the Phantom here. So we have the Phantom, and it's long overdue for the Phantom 5. Last time this came out, they released the Inspire 2 and this here Phantom around the same time. And this is the Phantom 4 Pro Plus model. Sure, they've updated it to OcuSync, but they really need to update the whole Phantom. I don't think, almost everything in DJI's lineup is going foldable, so I don't think the new Phantom is going to look like this. I think it's going to look different, like foldable, portable. If you're trying to wrap your mind around what I'm getting at, let me show you a toy, and let me just show you a toy, and then you'll get an idea of what I'm thinking. Here's a toy drone with foldable props. Now, one thing that's really cool about this is that, you know, you could take this, like I just showed you the Phantom 4. If the Phantom 5 wanted to be portable, they would take the arms and fold them in like this. You see how it becomes really portable? Yeah, sure. Get my little props in there. So anyways, yeah, so you just do that. You fold it all around, and you're going to have a very foldable, portable type drone. So could you imagine if they did that with the arms? A lot of people are probably going, no, I couldn't see that. But that's what they said with the Mavic. I still remember when the Mavic was coming out, I was on forums and everybody's going, there's no way those arms can fold, because they couldn't conceive the concept of how the Mavic actually folds up. They were all thinking like two-dimensional, like, oh, it just folds in this way. But DJI is pretty smart, and they've been working on this for a long time, and they want to make a portable Phantom 5. So I see something like this. And the same with the legs. You know, the legs hanging down. These things get in the way. So I've always said the Phantom should have foldable legs. So in other words, I unfold them to go flying and then fold them up when I'm done. So I think in 2019, we're going to see the Phantom 5. It's overdue. Sometimes DJI likes to keep the Phantom 5 on hold, or the Phantom series, to try to match the Inspire. So they might come out with a new Inspire at the same time they come out with a new Phantom. But you never know, they could launch it at a different time. It just depends on how much money they want to make, how much revenue they want to generate. So I see in 2019, we're going to see the Phantom 5 eventually, and it should be a pretty cool concept drone, and it's going to be freaking expensive. And for that reason, just like the Mavic, remember in the olden days when they came out with the Phantoms? I was around back in the Phantom 2 days. So when they came out with the Phantom 3, they came out with two versions, and then they came out with a third version. So they had like the basic, then the advanced, and then the professional. I could see that as well with the Phantom 5, you know, coming out with 2 or 3 versions, because it's so friggin' expensive. So you have the base version, you get some features, more features the next one, and then a ton of features in the last one, the Pro model. And I should bring this up too, because a lot of people always ask about it. So we have the Osmo Pocket, and you see everybody's doing the same silly thing. When this first came out, I said the same thing. Well, I'm going to just Velcro this to one of my drones and fly around because it's got, you know, a 3-axis gimbal. And a lot of drones don't have that. So everybody then started to think, well, not everybody, but some people started to think, well, then why doesn't DJI just launch a drone that costs like $200 and it's called the Osmo Pocket drone, just like we had with the GoPro Karma. So in other words, we take this, we slide it in this new DJI drone, and you can fly around. You have all the features to fly around, and you've got your little 3-axis gimbal camera there, and it's all connected, and we do all sorts of things. That may be coming. Maybe we'll see that in 2019. Who knows? Well, the crystal ball knows, and well, it hasn't told me much, so this is just a guess on my part. All right, so that's it with my predictions, or should I call them guesses? Well, I guess we'll find out at the end of 2019 when I review this for 2020 and see how well I did in all these guesses. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fastballs and curves that are going to come along, and things we didn't expect in the drone world. All right, so thanks for watching this video. Once again, these are just predictions, another word for guesses, and they're just based on trends and, you know, a little bit of common sense and nothing more than that. So let's see what happens in 2019. Happy New Year, everyone, and we'll catch you in the next video.